Philip, welcome back. I am so happy to talk to you. You have an amazing new app that just came out. But before we get into all of that, as I've told people, you are the co-founder of Intelligent Assistants, and you have, 14, 15 amazing apps that creators use to make their life easier every day. Can you tell us a little bit about Intelligent Assistants and what it does and who it's for as a company?
It's turned out to be the absolute perfect name for a company, Intelligent Assistants, and that's exactly what we provide. We like to say that we take the boring out of post, and one of our friends described our product as we sell sleep.
Yeah,
in other words, people get their job done faster, and they can get to spend more time with their family or even sleep. People would probably know us most for the translation apps to translate between Final Cut Pro 10, although we don't say that anymore, and Premiere Pro. We can go both ways with Send to 10 and 10 to CC. But there are lots of other apps like reporting apps for Premiere and for Final Cut Pro. Find a Cat is a great way of future-proofing your media by embedding all of your Final Cut metadata inside the media files. So even if you lose the project, the library, you can recover all the logging that you've done from within the media files themselves. The picture this, their new app is a slight departure for us, but normally they have been workflow apps because as it is, workflow takes a lot of time. There's a lot of workflow that is kind of dull and boring, and we take that out and make life just easier for you at every step along the way.
So picture this, what does it do and who is it for?
Picture this is an implementation of an artificial intelligence model into Final Cut Pro. We take the Stable Diffusion model, which is a well-known and well-respected model with the very, very latest version, and there's a little story about that I'll tell you in a moment, and we embed that into Final Cut. So you can write your prompts in Final Cut while you're working. When you have some downtime, you can batch process all of those prompts into images, which come back into Final Cut Pro as auditions, exactly where you put the prompt. So you don't have to go out. If we didn't have picture this, you would have to make some note of what you wanted the prompt to do and the time in the timeline that you wanted to use for. Then you would have to go to Stable Diffusion on the web and one by one create your alternatives, download them and save them somewhere, name them appropriately, and bring them all into Final Cut, and then create an audition and put it into the place in the timeline where you want it to be. We take all of that drudgery out of it. As I said, we give you time back, and simply you do, as I said, you write your prompts in the project where you're working, you batch process them in picture this, choosing how many you'd like to have, how many variations you want for each prompt, and then we bring them right back into Final Cut Pro as a new project with auditions for all of the generated images that we have created for you.
I actually used it the other day very quickly. I think I showed you. I was so excited because I have to do social media for a lot of the things that I do. So I was in Final Cut. I had picked a clip, and it was a writing instructor talking about some of the difficulties that he has when he works with crazy producers. And I opened up Picture This, right? I got to the point in the clip where I wanted to see because I can't draw cartoons. So I thought, well, maybe I'll have Picture This help me. So I put a marker and went to Picture This, gave them the prompts. Wow. It takes a couple minutes to chug and to find the right stuff, but it put it right in my timeline. I'm going to actually play it for everybody right now.
Netflix says this and the showrunner says this, and the actor wants this, and then there's this crazy producer who wants something completely different, and I don't know what to do.
Isn't that cute? That was
so cute.
It's so cute. I could not have done that myself. And do you have any reservations, or have you had anyone tell you they have reservations about using AI for this? Because I know some people.
I know some people have reservations, but I haven't heard any direct feedback around Picture This. Personally, I'm not that concerned because it is new work that is being created each time. And there are lots of examples in our outside of the AI space where people sample works and then generate new original work. Every art student that's ever been trained has been told to go and paint the great masters, do their own interpretation. In fact, just recently, Coca-Cola had a commercial set in a museum where there are art students repainting the masters in that museum. And the extremely talented Cinco Paul wrote the scores for Dune and Chicago, the Apple TV miniseries, where he played through all of the 50s musicals before he wrote Schmigadoon. He would sample and then write original music. And to me, that's a very similar process to what these AI models are doing. I think we're just doing it in a different way, and I'm not particularly concerned about it.
Yeah, and in my case, with that short little video, I would not have hired a cartoonist, and I
No,
couldn't draw it myself.
no. It
And
opens
so-
up. I feel that this AI stuff opens up a lot of opportunities for people who are not working in big teams, working in smaller teams, who would not otherwise generate their own artwork. They would have to go and license material from a library, which requires you to spend time searching through the library, finding the image that you want, as opposed to simply describing the image. So I think it's going to be great for social media clips, documentarians. If you have a subject with no B-roll, you can create B-roll for a historical documentary. Final Cut makes it so easy that once you get those images back, you can just use the Ken Burns effect to quickly add some animation on the image and make it quite dynamic.
I tell you, I'm doing that right now on the Purple Heart movie. I'm bringing in, I'm asking it because I've been paying someone, and I've been doing a lot of it myself, to do research about stock footage to cover. I wasn't in World War II on Omaha Beach. I wasn't in the Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War.
No.
And thank God I wasn't in Vietnam. So a lot of that story, although I do have some pictures, the story's being enhanced because I can bring in some really cool stock footage style pictures that are compatible with the era that we're talking about. But I can bring those in using picture this and bring it right into the cut. It's amazing. You've changed my mind about AI, Philip. I have to admit.
And it's a rapidly changing industry or subset of our industry. The interesting thing about Picture This is that we started working on it at the beginning of summer, and we're right now it's early into autumn. When we were working with it, the model that Stability AI provided, the earlier version of Stable Diffusion, produced images that were were good enough to let us build the app, but we could not release an app that we were happy with that version of the Stable Diffusion model. Then they released in early August, they released a new version of the Stable Diffusion model, Stable Diffusion 2 XL, and that had such a dramatic improvement that we decided that was what we had to go with for launching. And it wasn't until Sonoma was released that we could go with that, because it itself required Sonoma, the latest version of the Mac OS, in order to run the pipeline to run the model. And I should point out that this model is kind of officially approved by Apple. The GitHub repository is a model that has been recompiled for Apple Silicon by people within Apple or close to Apple. It's right up there. It's right on the cutting edge. And of course, these models will improve over time. And every time there is an improvement to the model, we will update Stable Diffusion. We will update Picture This to the latest version of Stable Diffusion, so that you get the very latest and up-to-date models. In fact, we're already experimenting with an improvement to see if the time penalty is worth the image improvement. And it does take a little bit of time on Apple Silicon because it only runs on Apple Silicon. Again, it's not quite leading edge anymore, but it's right up there at the forefront of technology, both in terms of what it needs in hardware and what it needs in the operating system.
Well, when you compare the time it took me to download that cartoon image, actually downloaded several and I picked the one I like best. If I had gone out to stock footage agencies or out on the internet to search for cartoons that I could have licensed, it would have taken me longer than 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh,
So
heck yeah.
I'm not going to complain about that. And the convenience of not having to get out of Final Cut. So this works directly in Final Cut. What, Philip, can you show us, can you share with us and show us how this works? Okay.
Here we are in Final Cut Pro, and this is a podcast that I'm working on for the demonstration purposes. And it's a quick podcast about health. And this is talking about stress in our modern day life and what's more stressful than commuting in traffic. So I want to start the image to start there, and the first thing I need to do is to make it a to-do marker, because Picture This works on to-do markers. And so I just describe what I want the image to be, the image surroundings. So I'm talking about cloudy weather, dull lighting, and best quality, of course, and masterpiece. And so once I'm done with that, and with all the rest of the markers that I have in my timeline, I bring up the Picture This interface, and I've got it set to keep on top. And all I need to do is to find the project and drag the project to the Picture This interface And now we have all of the prompts that we like. And there's our congested traffic on a freeway. And unfortunately, here's a marker that we do not want to use for an image. It's something that's still a to-do marker, but it's a to-do marker for another purpose. So I'll simply turn that off so that it is not included in the image processing. You can also make any corrections in here for typographical errors or to change the prompt if you think you can do a better prompt at the last minute. Just click in and start making your changes. You can choose here how many images you want in each audition. We default to 3, which is the same as Adobe use in their apps, but you can go as little as 1 image in the audition, or you can go up to 10. It will take longer, proportionally longer, to process 10 images than it would for 3, as it will take longer if you include the image quality beyond the default of faster. Once you're ready, click the Start button to start the batch, and Picture This will process all of the images in a batch. And you can go on and do something else productive. Don't continue to work on this particular project because any changes you make won't be included in the version that we send back. When Picture This is finished, we come back to Final Cut and we'll have a timeline, and here are my images. I can open up my audition and there's 3 choices, and you can use the Ken Burns effect to zoom in and animate on these images, or do whatever you like. If you're not happy with the images that you've got, simply go back into the prompt and you'll notice that we have marked it as a completed marker. Well, I'm going to change that check mark so it's now an incomplete marker, a red marker again, and I can send the whole project back to Picture This for another go, another iteration of images, and 3 more or 4 more or whatever you want images will be generated for Picture This. In fact, before I got finished, I had quite a number of goes, and before I finished, I had quite a number of goes at some of the prompts to make sure I got the best possible images. And that's Picture This. It's elegantly simple, it's right where you work, and it's in a batch. So it's just a great way to work, to create images for your podcast, for your documentaries, whatever you want to use.
I love it. It's so easy. It's so easy. So I think even people who aren't used to working in Final Cut all the time, because for example, YouTubers may use Final Cut, but somebody may want to just pull a social media clip, right?
Yeah.
And they can bring that into Final Cut, bring the clip into Final Cut, and then use Picture This on top of that. Does this work with any other NLEs at the moment?
It does work with Premiere Pro. Adobe haven't quite got to the point of doing generative AI within the Premiere Pro timeline. They are doing a lot of nice work with generative AI, and I certainly commend them for that. But this is something that would add to what Adobe are doing and provide Premiere Pro users yet another option for creating artwork within their timeline.
Now, how much does it cost, and is it a purchase or a subscription? What's happening with that?
Each of this is normally $29.99 for the base app, and the base app is all that there is at the moment. We do plan to add additional features like more control for those who want that, or a zoom out function, or using an image prompt, because using an image prompt, we can do some very exciting titling stuff. And these extra features will be available as in-app purchases when they're available from us and for people who want to use that feature. We don't make everything for everyone and make everyone pay for it. You get the features that you need to get jobs done. It's also really fabulous for just backgrounds for titles. You want to add a title, it's often one, what do I put in the background? For this project, I generated backgrounds for my titles by saying background for a title with the theme, and gave it the theme that I wanted for my title, and it created really good backgrounds that I could use to put my title over. And when we get to be able to use an image prompt, it will actually make those titles in the image content. So if I put a title up that just had bread in bold letters and said make this as bread, it would actually make the letters in slices of bread.
Oh, croissant, or like a baguette. Bread in baguette.
Maybe you can specify baguette, yes.
Baguette avec un bon camembert. There we go.
That's awesome. At the moment, Picture This is English only because Stable Diffusion only accepts English language prompts. But we're actively exploring including an additional model into Picture This so that it will translate non-English language prompts into English before sending it to the Stable Diffusion engine. That
That's
makes it
why-
much more workable for non-English speakers around the world.
That's why
It-
they call your company intelligent assistants.
It's-
Big
it's-
brains at work.
It's not immediately obvious, but there are already two AI models in the current application. There is, of course, Stable Diffusion is built in because nothing leaves your computer. Everything is done in your computer without the internet being involved. Once we get the image back, it's generated from Stable Diffusion as a 1028 by 1028, 1080 by 1080, sorry, image. Well, we make sure that image is scaled so that the largest dimension matches twice the largest dimension of your timeline of your project. That way, there is plenty of resolution for you to zoom in and refocus, so that Ken Burns effect can be quite dynamic. You can do some really clever sweeps and swoops. And if you want to do rotation, just add that in the inspector, the old-fashioned way.
That's awesome. So, all right, picture this: $24.99 if you get it now.
Yep.
Only in the Mac App Store.
Yep.
And for the Silicon Macs, I have a M1.
Yep.
I'll work on that. It
Yep.
won't work on the older versions. You have to have OS 14 or above.
Yes, Mac OS Sonoma.
Which is beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, Philip, you've done it again. This is
Sure.
awesome. Thank you very much for coming on and explaining that to us. And I wish you the best of luck. Break a leg with the new app.
Thank you.
He's Philip Hodgetts. I'm Serena Catania, and you have been listening to us wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. Remember what I tell you every time: get up off your chair and go do something wonderful today. Go picture this and play around with some cartoons. Take care.